governor of Benue, Bauchi, who said they have invited all Fulanis to come to Nigeria. Have you, and they say all they do is monetize. So I believe, unfortunately, it's my personal belief, that Nigeria should split. It's going to be, it's a hot cake discussion because many people are paying lip service. We are still far. The heading you put on earlier was that unity beyond tribal lines. I do not believe that we have a tribal problem. What we have is a religious problem. And that religious problem can be given in just 2 or 3 examples. There's Boko Haram. What are they about? They want to dip the Quran in the ocean. From time they wanted to Islamize Nigeria, including our former president, who it is public knowledge in the public space that he was the chairman or the negotiating personnel for Boko Haram, although he quickly denied. But what has come out of it? What did our Muslim leaders say when, what was her name, Dorothy in Sokoto? The girl that was killed in Sokoto?
Yeah. Yes.
What did they say? Nothing. We need to first solve our religious problem, remove religion.
Deborah, you should say.
Okay, Deborah, yes. There's a case in Maiduguri. Why would a man that was defending himself was told to run away? Why was that? Because a sect wants to take over the religion in Nigeria. What happened in, was it Ekiti, where in a church, they went there and killed people. So the problem we have is religion, and it has to do with Christians, pastors who can't talk, who do not have the liver to talk truth, to not just power, to religion. There are people in the north who preach every day that the rest of us are infidel.
Ṣé ti gbọ́ àlàyé tí bàbá yẹn ń ṣe nínú fídíò yẹn, ọ̀rọ̀ tó wà ńlẹ̀ yẹn ẹ̀yin olórí ẹlẹ́sìn ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ sì ṣàánú gbogbo àwa ọmọ ìlú àti àwa ọmọ Yorùbá, ìran Yorùbá. Gbogbo yín, gbogbo mẹ́mbà tó ń worship lọ́dọ̀ yẹn pátápátá, tẹ́ bá ṣe àlàyé àwọn ọ̀rọ̀, tẹ́ bá fi fọ ẹnu, ọ̀nà bẹ́ẹ̀ bá fi gbégbà lọ́nà Quran àbí lọ́nà Bíbélì, ayé wọn wípé kí wọ́n get ready fún tó bá fẹ́ ṣẹlẹ̀ ní 2027. Ẹ jẹ́ kó yé wọn wípé 2027 it's between one Nigeria versus Yoruba land and Yoruba race. Okay. Kó lè mọ̀ wípé àwọn Northerner no like Yoruba rárá. Tó bá sọ wípé wọn like kí Southerner kó share power pẹ̀lú Northerner rárá bí ti Yorùbá, wọn ti ẹ̀ fẹ́ Yorùbá rárá. Mo mọ̀ pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ yá ti máa wò wípé ṣebí Ọbásanjọ́ ṣe ó rúùlù Nàìjíríà, kò sí wàhálà, jẹ́ kí n sáré gbé dé àwọn ibìkan bí. This whole struggle didn't start today. To understand what is happening now, we must go back to conversation between Professor Omo Omoroye and General Ibrahim Babangida, a conversation that sheds raw light on how deep Northern establishment fear of Southern leadership runs. Wọ́n bẹ̀rù wọn gan ni, wọ́n bẹ̀rù Southerner. That conversation, documented in Omoroye's book, The Tale of June 12, reveals a mindset that is both old and dangerously persistent. Mindset yẹn tipẹ́tipẹ́ ló ti wà nínú mind wọn, ó dẹ̀ ṣì ń lọ dìsín because Northerners are not ready to back down or back off of their plan to Islamize Nigeria or to take Nigeria as their own property, that every other tribe will be a slave under them. Ṣé ẹrú ni wá? Orí adé la gbé wáyé. Farabalẹ̀ kó má gbọ́ mi o. At the heart of that discussion was a message from the Sultan of Sokoto. He warned General Babangida that allowing the election of Chief MKO Abiola, a Yoruba man and a fellow Muslim, will undo the gains the North had made since independence in 1960. The same set of people here, àwọn náà ni wọ́n ṣẹ́ igi ẹ̀yìn MKO Abiola, despite the fact wípé bí bàbá MKO Abiola bó ṣe bá wọn jẹ tó bá wọn mu, tí wọ́n fi lọ́kàn balẹ̀ tó jọ ń tọwọ́ bọnú àwo kan náà, àwọn náà ni wọ́n advice pé kó lọ gbé àpótí ìbò, àwọn náà ni wọ́n padà pé Babangida ọ̀rẹ́ tó àṣọ ẹ̀ pé kó má wọ́rì wípé ó gbúdọ̀ ṣe o, ṣebí Babangida padà bọ́ síta pé àwọn international kìnnì kan náà wọ́n nà wọ́n. Irọ́ ni, àwọn northern coalition ní northern leaders ní Sultan of Sokoto wà lára wọn. Òun ni mò ń kà fún yín bí. Anyway, allegedly. Imagine that, even though MKO was well liked and not seen as a threat in personal terms, his ethnic identity alone made him unacceptable to northern power brokers. Kò sọ́jọ́ tí northern náà ń bọ̀ wá disloyal àwọn èèyàn all because of Yorùbá. Kò sọ́jọ́ tí ẹ̀yà mìíràn nínú Nàìjíríà máa sọ wípé òun ò lóyà sí àwọn èèyàn mọ́, Yorùbá lókù tó ń fẹ́ lóyà sí. Jókòó ọmọ Yorùbá, èyí bẹ́yìí lẹ sọ wípé ẹni tán wò kì í wòran. Kí ló dé tí gbogbo ẹ̀yà tó kù Nàìjíríà tán against yín tẹ́yìn tán wò yín tẹ́yìn wá ń wòran? Mo ní this coming 2027 election nínú kó pẹ́mẹ́ Yorùbá land, àbíkẹ́ ká survive, ká dúró gedegbe bí màrìwò ti ń dúró láàrin Ẹ̀gún àti Ṣọ̀ṣọ̀. The Sultan made it clear that the North could not afford a Yoruba presidency. He believed it would shift the balance of power and allow the Southwest to reverse decades of Northern dominance. Mo wá fẹ́ kó farabalẹ̀ kó gbọ́ àwọn ibi tí mo wá fẹ́ kà fún ẹ yìí dáadáa kó wá mọ the reason why tí wọ́n ṣe hate wa bíi tìkútìyè. According to the account of Professor Omoruyi, nǹkan tí mò ń kà fún yín yìí ó wà nínú ìwé tí bàbá yẹn release o Professor Omoruyi o nípa June 12 o àti nípa mindset àwọn northerner against the southerner, most especially against all the Yorubas. Wá farabalẹ̀ kó gbọ́. According to the account of Professor Omoruyi, a message was sent to Babangida. The June 12 election must not go forward. And Babangida, in a moment of candor, told Omoruyi that Yoruba people behave as if Nigeria cannot move forward without them. Ṣé o ti gbọ́ statement yẹn? Màá tú àárín yẹn kà fún ẹ. According to the account of Professor Omoruyi, bí wọ́n ṣe kọ sínú ìwé wọn tán release, a message was sent to Babangida. The June 12 election, MKO election, must not go forward. Ṣé ń gbọ́? And Babangida, in a moment of candor, told Omoruyi, ìyẹn professor tó kọ ìwé yìí, that Yoruba people behave as if Nigeria cannot move forward without them, adding that the Igbo should teach them a lesson. It was a disturbing statement, but it revealed the hidden bitterness and competition that we have plagued Nigeria's leadership structure for years. It also showed how much fear and hatred of Southerner ascendancy still exists behind closed doors. See, ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi, hatred yẹn ti pọ̀jù fún wa. Ṣé wá rí election 2027? Gbogbo ẹ̀yin tí ẹ ń sáré pẹ̀lú bàbá Tinubu, mi ò ní ẹ má sáré. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ bá mi lọ sọ fún bàbá Tinubu wípé kàkà tí wọ́n fi sá eré àsápajúdé nítorí àǹfààní ara wọn tó máa sọ àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá àti ilẹ̀ Yorùbá sínú họ́wùhọ́wù tí northerner àti àwọn other southerners, àwọn southerner tribe tó kù tí wọ́n unite láti bojú wa jẹ́. Bàbá Tinubu ẹ ní farare lọ àti gbogbo ẹ̀yin supporter wọn. Mo fẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀ wípé kò sí 1 billion of the northerner can never quench Yoruba land and Yoruba race. I want you to know that 1 billion of every other tribe aside Yoruba race can never quench Yoruba race in Nigeria. Láyé kò lè ṣẹlẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká wá gbọ́ fídíò yìí again.
There is a disturbing development creeping up in Ghana and every well-meaning Ghanaian will have to sit up and grant me your attention for just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. A man born in Nigeria who settled in Ghana some decades ago and over time became well-respected leader among his tribesmen has now set up a kingdom for himself in our country, ladies and gentlemen. He is an Igbo man bearing the title Eze Chukudi Ihenetu. I hope I'm saying it right. He has the title Eze in the Igbo Ghana, which translates King of Igbo people in Ghana. His tribesmen in Ghana crowned him this position and the title in 2012. And these are his images, ladies and gentlemen. A very fine gentleman whom we are told is married to a Ghanaian. And as a typical Ghanaian, ladies and gentlemen, I have no problem with that at all. But many people, including myself, will have a problem with anyone or any situation that has the potential to undermine our sovereignty as a republic. What has made our country livable for all people for many years is our hospitality towards one another and to foreigners, ladies and gentlemen. And that cannot be circumvented by any external tribe nor group of people. Ghana has a common chieftaincy practice of installing foreigners as development chiefs for the purpose of providing value to our local communities. This is a typical thing in Ghana. And hence, I thought what this man and his tribesmen were doing was something in line of that. Until, ladies and gentlemen, I read from an internet publication that they, and I mean the Igbo people, or he as a king in Ghana, has acquired acres of lands to build an Igbo town and establish an Igbo kingdom within Ghana. This is where I became disturbed, even though I'm yet to see any substantive evidence for this acquisition. That would be totally unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. Fellow Ghanaians, I want to believe this is a falsified story. But if not, this is not something we should entertain or allow to continue. Ghana is a sovereign country alongside our kings and our chiefs. They are called kings and chiefs for historical reasons. They have fought and protected their lands and been the source of the unity of our people till this modern era. It is not a title given out of charity, ladies and gentlemen. There is a meaning and a story behind every stool or throne in Ghana. There is a story behind every stool, land, and family lineage that authenticates the royalty of our kings and chiefs. These institutions are not to be toyed with nor replicated in any shape or form, ladies and gentlemen. People have fought and died in the protection of their clans and tribes and lands in Ghana. It used to be our system of governance before the colonizers came in, and therefore should be respected whether by foreigners or locals, ladies and gentlemen. What is happening with this self-acclaimed king of Igbos in Ghana, if true, will be a direct infringement on our chieftaincy structure and the sovereignty of our country as a whole. This cannot happen in any other region outside of Accra, and even in Nigeria. Can this even happen in Ashanti region, ladies and gentlemen, or any of the northern regions? In fact, this shouldn't happen in any other country and shouldn't happen for that matter in Ghana. The Igbo people of Biafra need a king and true leadership in these times of struggle for an Igbo nation. That cannot be done in a strange land. What this man is trying to do in Ghana will undermine his own people's effort for freedom from Nigeria. And I don't think his intention is to create a kingdom here in Ghana and move his people along. If he indeed has the resources and the know-how to lead his people, this is the time to stand up strong for your people in Abia and Anambra and Ebonyi and Enugu and in Imo states in Nigeria. Biafra is at crossroads with the federal government of Nigeria, and we as Ghanaians don't want to meddle in that. To be crowned a king is not simply by an election. It must be tied to the lineage of your family, the land of your tribe or family, the historical achievements or significance of your family name in relation to the community you lead, ladies and gentlemen. You don't just blip on the radar in a community that has its own leadership structure and annex your throne to theirs, ladies and gentlemen. That is not how it's done, and doesn't make you a king nor a leader. And one reason we have to make this topical is because of how politicians relate with them. During the times of the formal government or the president, this man was seen, invited, and associated with the leadership of our country. And before the elections were held last year, he paid a visit to our current president. This is what he has used to gain for himself the popularity and the needed attention, ladies and gentlemen. But that's definitely not what Ghana needs at this time. We are not in need of more kings and chiefs, ladies and gentlemen. We have a diplomatic relationship with Nigeria, and that should be observed. The idea of our immigration officers inviting him and working with him is not going to be a healthy thing for Ghana and Nigeria's relationship in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to pay attention to all these. Nigeria has a high commissioner in Ghana. He is the representation of Nigerian government in Ghana.
Ṣó ti rí àwọn àlàyé tí mo máa ń ṣe fún ẹ. Fídíò tó ń gbọ́ yìí, Ghana ni o, àwọn Ghanaian ni wọ́n fi gbé ta. Based on the evil plan and evil plot tí àwọn ọmọ Yíbò ti ní láti take over àwọn náà ní Ghana. These people historically pẹ̀lú àwọn Northerners ó fẹ́ máa jọra wọn. Because ọmọ Yíbò á sọ fún ẹ pé àwọn wá láti Israel, àwọn Israel ti wá sí ilẹ̀ Yíbò, wọ́n ti ṣe DNA, wọ́n ti ṣe everything, wọ́n ní kò síbi tí wọ́n gbà mọ́ra wọn rí. So historically àti àwọn Northerners, majority especially àwọn Fúlàní, àwọn náà wọn ò ní history. Ìwọ ọmọ Yorùbá tá à ń bá ẹ sọ tó ń dìde ogun mọ́ somebody like us, tẹ́ ń jẹ́ kí àwọn èèyàn máa rí wa bí somebody like me pé ọ̀tá ni mí. Èmi kì í ṣọ̀tá anybody o. Ilẹ̀ bàbá mi ni mi fẹ́ kó di ahoro o. Mi fẹ́ kó ṣẹrú ni. Mo fẹ́ kó la ojú ẹ kó mọ nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀. Ìwọ ló nífẹ̀ẹ́ wholeheartedly. Ṣé wọ́n finú fẹ́dọ̀ wá fẹ́ wa ni? They have plan. Ìwọ náà wo àwọn Ghanaian bó ṣe pariwo nísìn. Wọ́n ti ń jẹ Igwe ndị Igbo ní Ghana again. Kò wá ṣe yẹn nìkan. Wọ́n ti ní power débi wípé àwọn àti president wọn ní Ghana, both the president, wọ́n jọ ń pa. Ó tẹ́ ń ṣètò Ghana ni. Àwọn Ghanaian àti fariwo ta báyìí sìn. Wípé wọ́n ti jẹ ọba wọn nǹkan jọba nìkan. Wọ́n tún fẹ́ gba ilẹ̀ wọn. Ṣé ó yàtọ̀ sí ariwo tí àwa ń pa tí wọ́n ṣe ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá? Jókòó síbẹ̀, má ṣe ránu kọjá lọ tán. Jókòó síbẹ̀ o, kó má ṣọ̀tẹ̀ kọjá lọ tán. Ọ̀tẹ̀ àtẹ̀yìn rí. Ẹ má worry. Ẹ jẹ́ tó sáré gbé yín débì kan. What played out in 1993 is not different from what are seen today. The same fear, the same desperation, the same tactics. President Tinubu has become a symbol of what the northern elite fear most. A southern leader who is independent, bold, and difficult to control. Tinubu is not Obasanjo, who was handpicked and trusted by the same establishment to protect their interests. Ṣótìgbọ́. Wọ́n rí Tinubu control bí wọ́n ṣe believe. Wọ́n believe pé Muslim ticket á sokùn sí lẹ́sẹ̀, á sọ sí lọ́wọ́ àtọrùn. Wọ́n máa tì, wọ́n lè máa fà báyìí pé ibi báyìí la fẹ́ kó lọ, ibi la fẹ́ kó jókòó, nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ la fẹ́ kó ṣe. Muslim ticket ó padà useless mọ́ Tinubu lọ́wọ́. Wọ́n rí mú, wọ́n rí control. Ohun tó fẹ́ ṣe ló fẹ́ ṣe. Àgbàlagbà ti ṣe ní kodoro. Ìgbé ẹ ti tòjébo lóòṣà mi lọ́wọ́. Ó fẹ́ kú bàbá ńlá bàbá ẹni tó fẹ́ bọ́ lọ́wọ́ mi. And you know what that means? Tinubu mo ní wọn ò kò ní gba àbọ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn. Àwọn tá à ń sọ yìí àwọn go ready àti fún Tinubu lódidi. Now, it is not about Nigeria versus Tinubu. It is about one Nigeria versus Yoruba land. Màá tún tú kíní ìsọ again kí tó round up video yìí. Wípé 1 billion Northerner can never permit my race Yoruba land. 1 billion Omo Yibo or every other tribe in Nigeria can never and will never permit Yoruba race. Like. It is only Yoruba that will permit Yoruba. It is only Yoruba people that can permit Yoruba people and permit Yoruba race and permit Yoruba land. Take it and swallow. It's too bitter to swallow. It's a bitter pill, but swallow it. Ashiara elore. Think. Gbogbo ọba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá pátápátá ìjòyè. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin obìnrin, students, nílé lóko lẹ́yìn odi, including me àtàwátà wà labroad. Àwátà wà labroad, majority wa we are ready to protect our land and our race. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà lé, ẹ má torí ìjẹkújẹ kẹ́ bá yára yín jẹ́. This thing are coming for you. Tẹ́ ẹ bá lọ ṣe ọ̀tá àti àbòsí tẹ́ wálé ayé yín wá ṣe. Mo fẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀ ẹ̀yin tẹ́ súnmọ́ bàbá Tinubu, bàbá Ọọ̀ni. ẹ súnmọ́ wọn bí ìṣọ̀rùn ó máa tó stage kan máa pariwo yín lójoojúmọ́ ẹ lọ sọ fún bàbá Tinubu it is not about Nigeria versus Tinubu coming this election 2027 it is about Nigeria one Nigeria versus Yoruba land tí Nigeria tí Yoruba land bá máa survive 2027 election ló máa determine ẹ wá bá mi sọ fún bàbá Tinubu wípé gbogbo bó ti ń ju kátó ti ń ju sẹ́yìn ṣé wọ́n mọ̀ wípé ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló máa jìyà ẹ̀ ǹjẹ́ kò tí ì tó àsìkò fún wọn láti pe ọmọ Yorùbá nísìn láti bá wa pe àpérò láti jẹ́ ká mọ nǹkan tó yẹ ká ṣe tí kì í ṣe wípé àpérò yìí pé 2027 election by fire by thunder ìyà tó máa tẹ̀yìn ẹ̀ jáde ńkọ́. bàbá Tinubu mo fẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀ wípé tógun bá dé gbogbo yín àti fámìlì yín kò lè kàn yín o ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní gbàgbé yín 2027 ló máa determine bóyá wọn ò ní gbàgbé yín sí ire àbí sí ibi 2027 ló máa jẹ́ gbogbo ẹ̀yin àgbègbè ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tẹ́kọ̀ tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ gbọ́ òtítọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tí ẹ ò rẹ́dì láti save ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àti Yorùbá race torí àǹfààní àti jẹ ìjẹkújẹ tẹ́ ń jẹ 2027 will be the last chance fún gbogbo yín pátápátá bẹ́ẹ̀ ni mo sọ fún yín ẹ máa get ready fún wa tẹ́ bá lè ready láti fi ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àtàwa láti fi jí Tinubu tí nǹkankan bá tẹ̀yìn wọ̀gbí tí omi tẹ̀yìn wọ̀gbí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá mo fẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀ pé gbogbo yín kò sí kankan nu yín tó máa fara rẹ̀ lọ orúkọ tèmi ò yí padà Yèyé Dára Kowó ni mò ń jẹ́ má gbàgbé láti bá mi subscribe sórí YouTube channel tí o bá like àwọn fídíò mi má gbàgbé láti support má gbàgbé láti bá mi share yìí tó bá fẹ́ tẹ̀síwájú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá forget about your hatred kò lè get into me láíláí iṣẹ́ tó rí rán mi ni mo gbé dání o hate me I don't care màá ṣiṣẹ́ mi àgbélébù tèmi nìyẹn greatest Yorùbá race great má gbàgbé láti bá mi share ire o.